The year was 2347. Humanity had spread across 12 star systems. They had built cities on distant worlds and made homes among the stars, but in all their travels they had never found anyone else. The universe seemed empty. Humans were alone. Doctor did not believe this. She had spent 15 years at the lunar observatory, watching the sky and listening to the silence of space. Every night she hoped to hear something. Every night there was nothing. Until tonight. Sat in her small office on the moon's surface. Earth hung in the black sky outside her window, blue and beautiful. Her computer made a sound she had never heard before. A pattern appeared on her screen. Numbers, repeating numbers. Her heart began to beat faster. She checked the data 3 times. Then she checked it again. The signal was real. It was coming from far beyond human space, and it was not natural. Someone had sent it. She called her team. They worked through the night and the next day and the night after that. They did not sleep. They barely ate. The signal contained mathematics, the kind that could only come from intelligent minds. And hidden inside the mathematics was something else, a message. It took 2 weeks to translate. When finally understood what it said, she felt cold inside. "Anyone, please, they are killing us all." She sent her report to Earth immediately. The United Earth Council met in emergency session. Presidents and prime ministers gathered in a great hall in Geneva. They argued for 3 days. Some said the signal was a trick, a trap to lure human ships into danger. Others said humanity should not involve itself in problems that belong to others. Admiral stood before them on the 3rd day. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had commanded human fleets for 20 years. She had never lost a battle. "We do not know what waits for us out there," she said. "We do not know if we can help, but someone is dying. Someone reached out into the darkness and asked for help. If we ignore them, we are not worthy of the stars we have claimed." The vote was close, but in the end humanity chose to answer the call. Captain Park received his orders on a cold morning. He stood on the bridge of the UN Resolute, the and most powerful ship in the human fleet. He was 42 years old, tall and serious, with a scar on his chin from a training accident long ago. He had served in the Navy since he was 18. He had never imagined he would lead humanity's first mission beyond known space. 11 other ships joined the Resolute. They were warships built for battle, but they also carried scientists and diplomats. Doctor came aboard as a civilian advisor. She would help them understand whatever they found. The fleet gathered near Jupiter, looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. They were scared, though they tried to hide it. He was scared too. "We do not know what we will find," he told them. "But we go to help those who cannot help themselves. That is who we are. That is what humans do." The ships activated their faster-than-light engines. Stars stretched into lines of light, and then they were gone, racing toward the source of the signal. The journey took 4 days. 4 days of waiting, 4 days of wondering. Spent most of his time studying the signal, listening to that desperate plea over and over again. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. He thought about the children of whoever had sent this message. On the 5th day, the fleet returned to normal space. Had expected to find a planet, maybe a station. He had prepared himself for many things. He had not prepared himself for this. The space around them was filled with wreckage. Thousands of destroyed ships floated in the darkness. Some were small, the size of shuttles. Others were enormous, larger than any human vessel. All of them were broken, burned, dead. "My God," whispered Lieutenant, the tactical officer. He was young, only 26, but he had a sharp mind and steady hands. Right now, those hands were shaking. Stared at her sensors. There are organic traces in the debris, bodies, thousands of them. Felt sick. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. Someone had killed these people without mercy. "Captain," called the communications officer, "I am receiving a signal. It is weak, but it is there. One of the ships is still functioning." looked at the screen. Among all the death and destruction, a single small vessel drifted. Its hull was covered in burns and holes. It should not have been alive, but a faint light blinked from its damaged frame. "Take us closer," ordered. The Resolute moved through the debris field. Pieces of metal scraped against its hull. The crew was silent. No one knew what to say. When they reached the damaged ship, the communications officer opened a channel. Static filled the bridge. Then slowly, a picture formed on the main screen. It was a face, humanoid but not human. The skin was pale blue. The eyes were silver and large. The creature looked exhausted, injured, barely alive. Behind it could see flames and smoke. The creature spoke. Its voice was weak, but the translation software worked quickly. "You came," it said, the silver eyes filled with tears. "We sent our message into the void. We had no hope, but you came. You actually came." Stepped forward, his voice was gentle. "We heard your call. We are here to help." The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "Help. We do not even know what that word means anymore." It coughed, and blue blood appeared on its lips. "I am Ambassador Tessa. I am the last of my ship, perhaps the last of my people." "What happened here?" asked. Tessa looked at them with those strange silver eyes. "The Dominion happened. They came from the far edge of the galaxy. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They only destroy." She paused, struggling to breathe. "We were 12 species. 12 civilizations that lived in peace for 3,000 years. Now there are 4, maybe 3. The Dominion is killing us all and we cannot stop them." The bridge was silent, thought about the wreckage outside. Thousands of ships, thousands of lives, and this was just one battle. "Why?" he asked. "Why are they doing this?" Tessa shook her head. "We do not know. They do not explain. They simply arrive and destroy everything. They take our people for slaves. They burn our worlds. They erase us from existence." Lieutenant spoke quietly. "We need to report this to Earth." Nodded, but he already knew what he would recommend. He looked at Tessa, at her tired eyes and her broken ship, at the destruction that surrounded them. Humanity had come looking for others in the universe. They had found them, and they had found something else too. They had found evil. Made his decision in that moment. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, humanity would not stand aside. They would not let this continue. "Ambassador Tessa," he said, "we need to know everything, because we are going to help you fight." Tessa stared at him. "You do not understand. The Dominion has destroyed civilizations older and more powerful than yours. You cannot fight them." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We are humans," he said. "Fighting is what we do best." Outside the ship, the wreckage drifted in silence. But inside, for the first time in months, Tessa felt something she had forgotten. Hope. The human fleet moved carefully through the debris field. Captain Park watched as his crew worked to rescue Ambassador Tessa and the few survivors from her damaged ship. There were only 11 of them. 11 people left from a crew of 300. Doctor met them in the medical bay. The aliens were humanoid with pale blue skin and silver eyes. They were taller than humans, thin and fragile-looking. Their hands had 6 fingers. They moved slowly, like people who had forgotten how to hope. Tessa sat on a medical bed while human doctors treated her wounds. She watched everything with careful eyes. When entered, she tried to stand. "Please rest," said. "You are safe now." "Safe," Tessa repeated. The word sounded strange on her lips. I had forgotten what that felt like. Sat beside her. The translation software had improved quickly. The human linguists were learning fast. "Tell me about your people. Help me understand." Tessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to speak. Her people were called They were one of 12 species that had formed a federation long ago. For 3,000 years they had lived in peace. They had no armies. They had no weapons. They had forgotten what war meant. "We built beautiful things," Tessa said. "We cured every disease. We ended hunger. We created art and music and poetry. We explored the stars and made friends with every civilization we met. And then the Dominion came, said. Tessa nodded, her silver eyes grew dark. 6 months ago, they appeared without warning, no communication, no demands, they simply started killing. She stopped, her voice breaking. Our ships had no weapons, our people had no training. We tried to negotiate to understand what they wanted, but they wanted nothing, just death. Listened as Tessa described the fall of the Federation. 8 of the 12 species were already gone. Some were extinct. Others had been taken as slaves. The called sanctuary was one of the last places left. We sent our signal in desperation, Tessa said. We pointed it at every direction where we had never found life. We hoped that somewhere someone might hear, someone who could help. She looked at with wonder. We never believed anyone would come. Took her hand, we came. Captain sent a full report to Earth. The message traveled faster than light, crossing the vast distance in hours. He included everything: the destroyed fleet, the survivors, the story of the Dominion. He also included his recommendation. The United Earth Council met again. This time the debate was shorter. Admiral spoke first. "This is not our war," she said. "But if we do not fight it, it will become our war. The Dominion is expanding. They are destroying everything in their path. Today it is tomorrow it could be us." Others argued that humanity should stay hidden, should protect only their own worlds. But the images from the debris field had spread across Earth. People saw the destruction. They saw the survivors. They saw what the Dominion did to those who could not fight back. The vote was not close this time. Humanity would go to war. Received the orders 3 days later. He was to escort the survivors to Sanctuary. He was to make contact with their leaders, and he was to prepare for combat. The journey to Sanctuary took 2 weeks. During that time, worked closely with Tessa. They shared information, technology, knowledge. The humans were amazed by science. Their medical technology could heal wounds that humans thought were fatal. Their energy systems were clean and powerful. "Why did you never build weapons?" asked one day. Tessa looked confused by the question. Why would we? We had no enemies. War was something from ancient history, a mistake our ancestors made before they became civilized. And now, Tessa lowered her eyes, and now we are paying for our innocence. Lieutenant spent his time studying the Dominion. He analyzed the wreckage they had collected, the weapons' signatures, the tactical patterns. He was not encouraged by what he found. "They are strong," he told. "Their ships are heavily armored. Their weapons are powerful, but their tactics are simple. They rely on overwhelming force. They are not creative." Nodded. "That is something we can use." "Maybe," said, "but there are a lot of them, Captain, a lot more than us." The fleet arrived at Sanctuary on a clear morning by the planet's time. It was a beautiful world, blue and green, with white clouds and silver oceans. Cities of crystal and light covered its surface. It looked like paradise. But could see the fear. Ships surrounded the planet, but they were not warships. They were transports, science vessels, pleasure crafts. They had nowhere to run and nothing to fight with. A transmission came from the surface. A face appeared on screen. It was an older, with deep lines around his silver eyes and white hair instead of the usual blue-black. "I am High Speaker," he said. "I lead what remains of the Council. You are the ones who answered our call." "We are," replied. "I am Captain Park of the United Earth Navy. We have come to help." Stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly tears began to fall from his silver eyes. "You came," he whispered. "We sent that signal into the darkness with no hope at all, and light answered." And his senior officers traveled to the surface. They met in a great hall filled with crystal pillars and soft light. The High Speaker was surrounded by other leaders, all of them looking exhausted and afraid. Stood beside. Tessa had come too, walking slowly because of her injuries. "We have brought information about the Dominion," said, "and we have brought ships, warships. We are prepared to fight. Looked at the human officers. You are so few, and the Dominion is so many. Why would you risk your lives for us? We are strangers to you. Thought about this question. He had asked it to himself many times during the journey. Because you asked for help, he said finally. Because we could hear you. Because we have the power to fight and you do not. What kind of people would we be if we turned away? Was silent, then he bowed his head. Your people have courage, I hope you also have luck. The meeting was interrupted by an alarm. His voice came over his communicator. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting ships approaching. The configuration matches Dominion patrol vessels. His expression hardened. He looked at how many. 30 ships, replied. They will arrive in 6 hours. The in the hall began to panic. 30 Dominion ships had destroyed fleets 10 times their size. The humans had only 12 vessels. But did not panic. He turned to his officers. Return to the ships, battle stations. We will meet them at the edge of the system. Grabbed his arm. You cannot fight them, you will be destroyed. Smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had been waiting his whole life for this moment. High speaker, with respect, you do not know what humans can do. He activated his communicator. All ships, this is the captain. Prepare for combat. Today, we show these Dominion bastards what happens when they make an enemy of Earth. As walked back to the shuttle, Tessa followed him. You are not afraid, she said. It was not a question. Stopped, I am terrified, he admitted. But fear does not stop humans, it makes us more dangerous. Tessa watched him go. She had seen her civilization crumble. She had watched her friends die. She had given up hope. But now, looking at these strange, fierce creatures who had come from nowhere to fight for people they had never met, she began to believe again. Maybe hope was not dead after all. The human fleet moved into position at the edge of the sanctuary system, 12 ships against 30. The numbers were not good, but Captain Park had not survived 20 years in the Navy by fighting fair. All ships report status, he ordered. One by one, his captains confirmed they were ready. The Resolute hummed with power. The crew moved quickly and quietly, checking weapons, adjusting shields, preparing for what was coming. Lieutenant stood at the tactical station. His young face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. The asteroid field at Grid 7, he said. We can use it. Looked at the map. A dense field of rocks and ice floated between them and the approaching enemy. Most commanders would avoid it, wanted to hide in it. Explain, said. Pointed at the screen. The Dominion uses simple tactics. They come straight at their enemy with maximum force. They will not expect us to fight from cover. We position our ships among the asteroids. We use the rocks to break their formation. We hit them from angles they do not expect. Nodded slowly. It was risky, but it might work. Do it, he said. The fleet moved into the asteroid field. The ships found positions behind large rocks, their engines cold to hide their heat signatures. They waited in darkness and silence. Doctor watched from the observation deck. She had no training for combat, but she wanted to see this. She needed to understand what humans were capable of when they went to war. The Dominion fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 30 ships, each one larger than any human vessel. They were brutal-looking things, all sharp angles and heavy armor. They moved in a tight formation, confident and arrogant. Their lead ship broadcast a message. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. Unknown vessels, you are in Dominion space. Surrender your ships and your lives. Resistance will result in complete destruction. Smiled grimly, he opened a channel to all his ships. Hold positions, let them come to us. The Dominion fleet moved toward Sanctuary. They did not notice the human ships hiding among the asteroids. Why would they? No one had ever ambushed them before. No one had ever dared. When the enemy was deep inside the asteroid field, gave the order. All ships fire. 12 human vessels opened up at once. Missiles streaked through the darkness. Energy beams cut through space. The first Dominion ship exploded before its crew even knew they were under attack. Chaos erupted in the enemy formation. The Dominion ships tried to turn to find their attackers, but the asteroids blocked their sensors. The humans appeared, fired, and disappeared again, using the rocks as shields. This tactical plan worked perfectly. The Dominion's tight formation became a weakness. Their ships crashed into each other trying to maneuver. They fired blindly, hitting asteroids and sometimes their own allies. Commanded from the center of the battle, the Resolute moved like a dancer, spinning between rocks, striking and retreating. Its weapons hit hard and true. "Target their command ship," ordered. "Cut off the head." The Resolute and 3 other vessels concentrated their fire on the largest Dominion ship. Its shields flickered and died. Its hull cracked. Then it broke apart in a ball of fire. Without leadership, the Dominion fleet fell into disorder. Some ships tried to flee. Others fought wildly without coordination. The humans picked them apart piece by piece. It was not easy. The Dominion fought hard, even in confusion. The human ship Thunder was destroyed when 2 enemy vessels caught it in a crossfire. The Victory lost half its crew to a direct hit. The Defiant limped away with its engines barely functioning. But when the battle ended, 22 Dominion ships were dead or disabled. Only 8 escaped, fleeing into deep space with damage of their own. The human fleet had lost 3 ships, terrible losses, but they had won. On Sanctuary, the watched in disbelief. High Speaker stood in the command center, staring at the tactical display. He had seen the Dominion destroy everything they touched. He had never seen anyone fight back successfully. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." Beside him, Tessa was crying, but for the first time in months, they were tears of joy. His face appeared on the screen. He looked tired. There was blood on his uniform from a wound he had not yet treated, but he was smiling. "High Speaker," he said, "the Dominion patrol has been defeated. You are safe for now." Could not speak. He simply bowed his head in gratitude and wonder. Far away on the Dominion capital world, Warlord received the report. He was a massive creature, twice the size of a human, with gray skin and black eyes that held no mercy. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had destroyed civilizations that had lasted for. He had never lost. Until today. "Who are they?" he demanded. His advisor general pulled up the information they had gathered. "They call themselves humans. They come from a region of space we have not explored. They are few in number, but they fight unlike anything we have seen." Studied the battle recordings. He watched the human ships move and strike and disappear. He watched his own fleet fall into confusion and destruction. "They are clever," he admitted, "but they are still small. One victory means nothing." One of our surviving captains provided a report, said. He described the humans as fearless. He said they sacrificed ships to save damaged allies. They did not surrender. They did not flee. Was quiet for a moment. In all his years of conquest, he had never met an enemy willing to die for others. The had surrendered. The other Federation species had run. These humans were different. "We will need more ships," he said finally. "Many more." On Sanctuary, they celebrated their first victory, but knew this was only the beginning. He sent a full report to Earth, with recordings of the battle and everything they had learned about the Dominion. Admiral received the report on a rainy evening in Seoul. She watched the battle footage 3 times. Then she smiled. "Get me the council," she said. "It is time to go to war." The mobilization began immediately. Factories that had made civilian ships converted to wartime production. Soldiers who had trained for peacekeeping operations prepared for real combat. Colonies across human space sent their ships and their people. For the first time in a century, humanity united under a single purpose. On Sanctuary, Doctor worked with the to share technology. Human engineers studied energy systems and medical equipment. Scientists studied human weapons and tactics. They learned from each other quickly. "Your weapons are terrible," told one day. He was looking at a human rifle designed to kill with brutal efficiency. "Yes," agreed, "they are. And yet I am grateful they exist." Understood, they had built a paradise by rejecting violence. Now they needed violence to survive. It was a hard truth to accept. Sergeant Lee led a team onto one of the captured Dominion ships. He was 35 years old, tough and quiet, with the kind of eyes that had seen too much. His job was to gather intelligence. What he found changed everything. Deep in the ship's hold, behind heavy doors, he found cages. Inside the cages were civilians, men, women, children. They were thin and terrified, covered in bruises and cuts. "My God," one of his soldiers whispered. "Open the cages." The cowered away from him at first. They had learned to fear anything that moved. But when they saw his human face, they began to cry. "You are not them," an old woman said. "You are the ones who came, the ones who fight." Knelt beside her. "What did they do to you?" The woman's eyes went dark. "They work us until we die. They take our children for experiments. They kill us for entertainment." She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Please, please stop them. Save the others." Reported his findings to Captain. The captain listened in silence. When finished, his face was like stone. "Send this to Earth," he said. "Send it to everyone. Let them see what the Dominion really is." The images spread across human space. People saw the cages, the prisoners, the evidence of cruelty beyond imagination. Anger grew. Determination hardened. On the Resolute gathered his officers. "This is not just a war," he said. "This is a fight against evil. The Dominion does not just want to conquer. They want to destroy everything good in the galaxy." He looked at each of them in turn. "We will stop them, whatever it takes, whatever it costs. We will not rest until this is over." His officers nodded. They had seen the prisoners. They understood now. This was not a war for territory or resources. This was a war for the soul of the galaxy. And humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the first battle. The galaxy had changed. Admiral stood on the bridge of the carrier Unbreakable, the largest ship humanity had ever built. Around her, 200 warships filled the space between stars. Human flags flew on vessels that had been built in factories across a dozen worlds. Millions of people had joined the fight. Humanity had come to war. The Dominion had learned to fear them. After the Battle of Sanctuary's Edge, the humans had not stopped. They struck Dominion outposts and supply lines. They freed prisoner transports. They appeared from nowhere, fought like demons, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Lieutenant had become famous for his tactics. He was called the Ghost because his ships seemed to appear and vanish like spirits. The Dominion put a price on his head. It made him proud. "Another convoy destroyed," he reported to. 12 supply ships and 4 escorts. We lost 2 fighters." Nodded. "Good work. What about the prisoners?" 300. They are being transported to Sanctuary now." This was how the war went. Strike fast, hit hard, free the innocent, never give the enemy a moment of peace. On the ground, the fighting was harder. Sergeant Lee led special forces teams to liberate occupied worlds. The Dominion did not surrender easily. They fought for every building, every street, every room. Stood in the ruins of a city. His armor was covered in dust and blood. His soldiers moved through the rubble, searching for survivors. Sergeant called one of his men. "Over here." They had found a basement. Inside were 30 children, hidden by their parents when the Dominion came. The parents were dead, but the children had survived, eating scraps and drinking rainwater for weeks. The children stared at with huge silver eyes. They were terrified. They had never seen a human before. knelt down and held out his hand. He did not speak, but he hoped his voice would be gentle enough. "It is okay," he said. "You are safe now. We are going to take you home." A little girl no more than 5 years old stepped forward. She touched his armored hand. Then she hugged him, crying into his chest. Held her. His eyes were wet, but his expression was hard. Every child he saved made him more determined. Every body he found made him more angry. The Dominion would pay for what they had done. But the Dominion was not defeated. Warlord had been surprised by the humans, but he was not beaten. He gathered his generals in the great war hall of his capital world. "These humans are an annoyance," he said. "Nothing more. They win small battles because we have spread our forces too thin. It is time to remind them what true power looks like." General stepped forward. "What do you command?" "Gather every ship we can spare, 1,000 vessels. We will strike at the heart of their alliance. We will destroy Sanctuary." Nodded. "If we destroy the human morale will break. They fight for these creatures. Without them they have no purpose." Smiled. It was an ugly expression. "Exactly. Burn Sanctuary to ash. Kill every on the surface. Show the humans what happens to those who oppose the Dominion." The great fleet began to assemble. Ships came from across Dominion space. It was the largest force ever gathered in a single place. Over 1,000 warships, carrying millions of soldiers. They did not know that someone was watching. Doctor had spent months building an intelligence network. She worked with agents and sympathizers from other species who had been conquered by the Dominion. They passed information through hidden channels, risking their lives to help. One of those agents sent a message. It was short and desperate. "They are coming, 1,000 ships. Target Sanctuary. You have 3 weeks." Brought the message to Admiral immediately. The Admiral read it twice, her face showing nothing. 1,000 ships, she said quietly. "We have 212. "We cannot win a direct battle," said. "We need more time, more ships." "We do not have more time," stood and looked out at the stars. "But we have something they do not have. We have something worth fighting for." She called a meeting of all ship commanders. Captain Park came in person along with, and dozens of others. High Speaker attended by hologram, his face grave. "The Dominion is coming to destroy Sanctuary," told them. "They believe this will break us. They are wrong." She brought up a tactical display. "We cannot match their numbers, but we can use the geography of the system. We can use our tactics. We can make them pay for every kilometer they advance." "They will still win," one of the captains said. "Numbers matter." "Yes," agreed. "Numbers matter, but so does will, so does courage, so does the knowledge that you are fighting for something greater than yourself." She looked at each of them. "Every one of you knew this day would come. Every one of you volunteered for this war. Now I am asking you to stand with me, to hold the line, to give the chance to survive." The room was silent, then stood. "I have fought beside these people," he said. "I have seen what the Dominion does to the helpless. I will not run. I will not hide. I will stand at Sanctuary until my last breath." One by one, the other commanders stood, every single one. There were no speeches. There were no grand gestures, just soldiers agreeing to face death together. Nodded. "Then we have work to do." The next 3 weeks were the busiest of their lives. Human engineers built defense platforms around Sanctuary. They laid minefields in the approaches. They prepared positions in asteroid fields and behind moons. On the planet's surface, civilians were evacuated to underground shelters. Those who could not be moved were protected by human soldiers who dug in and prepared for the worst. Trained volunteers, they were not fighters by nature, but they had seen their families killed, their homes destroyed. They wanted to help. "I do not expect you to become soldiers," told them, "but I can teach you to survive. I can teach you to protect your people." High Speaker visited the training camp. He watched his people learn to shoot, to take cover, to move under fire. His silver eyes were sad. "We never wanted this," he said too. "No one wants war," replied, "but sometimes war wants you." The day before the battle, Captain addressed his fleet. His image appeared on every ship in every room. "Tomorrow, we face the largest enemy fleet ever assembled. They are coming to destroy everything we have fought for. They believe they have already won." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They do not understand us. They do not know that humans have faced impossible odds before. They do not know that we have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed us. They do not know that every time someone tried to break us, we came back stronger." His voice grew harder. "Tomorrow we will show them. We will stand together, humans, and we will fight. Not for glory, not for conquest, but for the simple belief that some things are worth dying for." On Sanctuary, High Speaker broadcast to his people. His voice was calm but powerful. "For 3,000 years we knew only peace. We thought we had risen above violence. We thought we were civilized. But we learned a hard truth. Peace without the strength to defend it is not peace. It is just waiting to be destroyed." He looked at the camera, at the millions watching. "Today we stand with the humans. They came from the darkness to help us. They bled for us. They died for us. Tomorrow we will stand beside them, not as warriors, but as people who believe that kindness and courage can exist together." Night fell on Sanctuary. The human fleet gathered in formation. Soldiers checked their weapons one last time. Pilots ran final diagnostics on their ships. Stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, 1,000 Dominion ships were racing toward them. He was not afraid. He had passed through fear long ago. Now there was only purpose. Tomorrow they would write history, one way or another. He closed his eyes and thought of his daughter. He had sent her a message that morning, just 3 words. "I love you." He opened his eyes. The stars were waiting. "All hands," he said quietly, "get some rest. Tomorrow we save the galaxy." The Dominion fleet arrived at dawn. 1,000 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel, filling the space around Sanctuary like a swarm of metal insects. General stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The human fleet looked tiny in comparison. 200 ships against 1,000. It was not a battle. It was an execution. "All ships," commanded, "advance, destroy everything." Admiral watched them come. Her face was calm. Her heart was steady. She had prepared for this moment her entire career. "All ships hold positions," she ordered. "Let them come to us." The Dominion fleet moved forward, confident and arrogant. They did not notice the mines until the first ships exploded. They did not see the defense platforms until beams of energy cut through their formation. They did not expect resistance. But they found it. The battle began with fire and death. Human ships struck from behind asteroids and moons, just as they had done before. Dominion vessels tried to form up, but the minefields broke their lines. Chaos spread through their ranks. Captain Park led the Resolute into the heart of the fighting. His ship was surrounded by enemies, but he did not retreat. His weapons fired constantly, hitting target after target. "Stay together," he ordered his crew. "Watch each other's backs." Lieutenant commanded a squadron of fast attack ships. They darted through the battle, striking weak points and withdrawing before the enemy could respond. The Ghost was everywhere and nowhere, a nightmare the Dominion could not catch. But the numbers were overwhelming. For every Dominion ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Human vessels began to fall. The victory exploded in a ball of fire. The Courage was torn apart by concentrated weapons fire. The Hope drifted dead, its crew gone. Watched the losses mount. Her expression did not change, but her hands gripped the railing of her command platform. "Execute Maneuver 7, she ordered. A third of the human fleet suddenly broke formation and charged directly at the Dominion center. It looked like suicide. It looked like desperation. It was neither. The Dominion fleet repositioned to meet the charge. They turned their ships, opening gaps in their formation, and from behind Sanctuary's moons, hidden ships emerged. 20 vessels that had been waiting in darkness, engines cold, invisible to sensors. They hit the Dominion flank with everything they had. The enemy formation shattered. Ships collided with each other. Commanders screamed contradictory orders. The careful discipline of the Dominion fleet broke apart into chaos. His voice came over the comm. Now all ships push forward. The human fleet surged ahead. They drove into the confused enemy like a spear. Ship after ship fell on both sides. The battle became a storm of fire and metal. On the planet's surface, the ground war had begun. Dominion landing craft broke through the orbital defenses, carrying soldiers to invade Sanctuary. They landed near the capital city, expecting to find helpless civilians. They found Sergeant Lee instead. His soldiers had prepared positions in the ruins of the outer districts. They had mines, traps, and fortified buildings. When the Dominion troops advanced, they walked into a killing ground. "Hold the line," ordered, "not one step back." The fighting was brutal, hand to hand in some places. Moved through his positions, encouraging his soldiers, directing fire leading from the front. He was hit twice by enemy fire. He kept fighting. And then something unexpected happened. Civilians emerged from their shelters, not many at first, a few dozen, then hundreds. They carried improvised weapons, tools, pipes, anything they could find. They had never fought before, but they could not watch others die for them any longer. High Speaker was among them. He carried a human rifle that felt strange in his six-fingered hands. He did not know how to use it properly, but he stood beside soldiers, ready to fight. High Speaker said, "You should be in the shelter." Shook his head. "I am tired of hiding. I am tired of watching others sacrifice for us. Today we fight together." They joined the defense. They were not skilled. They were not trained, but they were determined, and their presence inspired the human soldiers to fight even harder. In space, the battle reached its climax. Had been watching the Dominion command structure looking for weakness. He found it. "Admiral," he called to, "Warlord's flagship. It is in the center of their fleet. If we can destroy it, their command structure will collapse." Studied the tactical display. The flagship was heavily protected. Getting to it would be almost impossible. "Almost." "Captain," she said, "take your best ships. Cut a path to that flagship. I will cover you." Selected 10 ships, the fastest, the strongest, the bravest. They formed up around the Resolute and began their charge. The Dominion threw everything at them. Ships exploded all around. The Resolute took hit after hit. Its shields failed, its hull cracked, but it kept moving forward. They broke through. Could see the flagship now, massive and terrible, bristling with weapons. "Boarding teams prepare for launch," he ordered. Small craft shot from the Resolute, carrying soldiers in combat armor. They crashed into the flagship's hull, burning through with cutting tools. Led the first team himself. The corridors of the Dominion flagship were dark and full of enemies. Human soldiers fought their way through, step by bloody step. Bodies fell on both sides. Pushed forward, he had one goal, one target. He found Warlord on the bridge. The alien leader was enormous, twice size, with gray skin and black eyes that held no mercy. He held a weapon in each hand, surrounded by his personal guards. "You," said, studying the human captain, "you are the one who started this. You led the first battle." "I did," replied. He raised his weapon. "Why?" demanded. "These creatures are not your people. Why do you die for them?" Thought of the children had rescued. He thought of Tessa's tears. He thought of High Speaker's gratitude and wonder. "Because they asked for help," he said simply, "and we could not look away." Roared and attacked. The fighting was fierce and short, was hit several times, but he did not fall. Human soldiers surrounded the warlord, pouring fire into him, killed 3 of them before he finally collapsed. The Dominion flagship went silent. Word spread across the enemy fleet. Their leader was dead. General tried to take command, but it was too late. The Dominion fleet was already breaking apart. Ships began to flee. Others surrendered. The remaining commanders fought among themselves, each trying to save their own vessels. The humans pursued without mercy. They destroyed fleeing ships. They captured surrendering crews. They did not stop until the enemy was completely broken. When it was over, the space around Sanctuary was filled with wreckage, but most of it was Dominion wreckage. The human fleet had lost 63 ships and thousands of lives, but they had won. On the surface, received word of the victory. The remaining Dominion ground forces surrendered within hours. The Battle of Sanctuary was over. 1 year later, the galaxy was healing. The Dominion had collapsed. Without its leadership, their empire fell into civil war. The species they had conquered rose up and freed themselves. General was captured and imprisoned. The threat was gone. Humanity helped rebuild what had been destroyed. Ships carried supplies and medicine to devastated worlds. Human engineers helped construct new cities. Human doctors worked alongside healers to save lives. Doctor became the first human ambassador to the Galactic Federation. She worked to build trust between species who had never known each other. It was slow work, but it was good work. Sergeant retired from the military. He stayed on Sanctuary, helping to train a new defense force, not to conquer but to protect, that would never be helpless again. Admiral became the commander of a peacekeeping fleet, made up of ships from every species in the Federation. She patrolled the borders, ensuring that nothing like the Dominion could ever rise again. Captain recovered from his wounds. He could have retired with honor. Instead, he took command of a new ship, the Unity, built by human and engineers working together. He continued to explore, to protect, to serve. A memorial was built on Sanctuary. It stood in the central plaza of the capital city, a tower of crystal and light. On its walls were written the names of every human who had died in the war. Thousands of names, thousands of lives given for strangers. High Speaker spoke at the dedication ceremony. His voice was strong, carrying across the plaza to the millions watching. They were strangers to us, they owed us nothing. We sent our message into the darkness, not believing anyone would hear. But they came, they fought, they bled, they died, not for territory, not for resources, but because we needed help and they could not look away. He paused, looking at the human delegation, stood among them but alive. Beside him were, and others who had survived. We asked the humans why they came, why they risked everything for people they had never met. Their answer was simple. They said, because you asked for help. Such a small thing, such a simple reason, and yet it changed the galaxy. Bowed his head. We will never forget. As long as exist, as long as this Federation stands, we will remember the humans who answered our call. We will remember that kindness and courage can exist together. We will remember that in our darkest hour, light came from the stars. That night stood alone on a balcony, looking up at the sky. Tessa found him there. She was fully healed now, serving as an advisor to the new Federation Council. "What are you thinking?" she asked. Was quiet for a moment. "I am thinking about why we came. I am thinking about what we found. I am thinking about what happens next." Tessa stood beside him. "And what have you decided?" He smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. "We came because it was right. We stayed because you became family. And next," he looked at her, at the stars, at the future waiting to be written. "Next, we build something worth keeping." Above them, human ships patrolled alongside vessels. The stars shone bright and clear. And somewhere in the darkness, on a small blue planet called Earth, children looked up at the sky and dreamed of the wonders they would find. The universe was not empty anymore. and humanity would never stand aside again.